So the topic of this video is summarize your data. So at this stage, you have done as much research as you can. You've gone through all the different steps. You've figured out what all your critical factors are. You've used that to decide if moving overseas is going to be the right choice. And obviously, if you're still watching, then you decided, yeah, it is. And from there, it's you choose your country, narrow the search down a little bit, start making your contacts, people you can trust, getting some more detailed information, really started figuring out what type of environment you want to live in. You've looked at budgets. You've figured out what your spendable income is going to be as opposed to your net income. You've figured out sort of what lifestyle class you have as your requirement based on your budget range. We've looked at actual budgets so you can really figure out if you can afford to live here in a certain lifestyle. We've focused on further narrowing that search down to where you've pretty much figured out a couple main areas that you are planning to live. Once you've narrowed it down that point, you should have already taken a couple of trips. You've done your scouting, so you already kind of had an idea of the area you wanted to live. This is the confirmation part. So you go over, you come here not as a tourist, you're not on vacation, you're here on business to find where you're going to be living. Traveled around, you did your thing, made a lot of notes, figured it out, went home. You might have had to go through and make a couple of these trips, but we're at the point now where summarize the data is just that. You are looking through the whole timeline and you're looking at all the details, making sure that you have everything checked off, that you are good to go. At this point, you either are going to be making that decision, okay, I'm ready to move. I've already gone there, I've seen the places, I know exactly what city or area I really want to move to. I like the area, I like the environment, the weather was okay, the food was okay, the shopping, like everything for my needs can be met within that area. I'm already aware of what my critical factors are. I know that if there's certain medical situations that I need to have dealt with, I know where the hospitals or the doctors or the clinics, you know where all that is. And I mean, that's really what you're doing. This is that final point where you need to completely come down to that decision, a yes or a no. Once you have made this choice, everything you do from this point on, it's, obviously you can still change your mind, but this is that critical point where all that work that you've done in your research, now that's where it's going to be useful, because now you're going to be looking at getting your paperwork in order, getting your airline tickets, getting everything in your hometown, with your family and your residence and everything. You're going to be looking at getting all of that stuff done and ready to go so you can hop on a plane and move. So at this point, this is the very end of your research phase. So at this point, at the end, this is where you have to really completely 100% make sure this is what you want to do, where you want to go, how you want to do it. And as long as you've done all your research, you followed those steps, you didn't skip over things, you didn't try to speed through certain steps and process, as long as you've done it all correctly, you can trust your judgment to know that, yeah, this is really it. I'm going to be happy there. This is really interesting. If you're having any doubts, then that means your research is not done. You continue to do your research and keep going over it until you are certain that you're good to go. If you're starting to have a lot of those major doubts, that means you probably didn't do enough research or you might have missed something. So that pretty much will cover the whole summarizing your data. It's just literally that. You're just going through and summarizing everything you've done up to this point. I'm going to be doing the next video that's going to essentially be how I was doing my research. I'm going to summarize in general, the research that I did to make the decision to come here. Now, if you watch the videos about my background and all that, you'll see that the way that I got here was not the way I suggest others do it. It was not advisable, easy to put it. But before that, I was still making sure I did all of my research. There were research steps that I didn't know about at the time. I mean, nobody else had been doing these kind of videos. I didn't really know everything that I should do. I've never moved internationally. I mean, yeah, I've moved across the country. I've traveled internationally quite a bit, but nothing where I had to actually completely pack up my life and everything and move somewhere for an indefinite amount of time. So there were some things that I learned from my process that I should have done differently, or just I should have done, and I'm including that in my advice. But that pretty much concludes this video. It's just a go through and make sure you're 100%.